Same old thing, there ain't no shame, cause everybody ain't gonna change. Moxie's looking to stop the champion. His cover's blown, can't fool us for too long. We need a real world champ, no more cheap shots. Consider Mox the right doctor for the detox. You know when AMC's on the track, the beat pops. When all the leads start, it's when the beat drops. Cody's on a mission, ain't no plane. He's the best in AEW that ain't proclaimed.
Welcome back, All Elite family, to another exciting edition of the All Elite podcast. As always, I'm your host, All Elite Andy, joined by my boys, Big Match AJ and Philip Domino. We're fresh off the go-home edition of Dynamite, leading into our first pay-per-view of the year? Second pay-per-view of the year?
Yep.
Second pay-per-view of the year.
Second.
But a very strange pay-per-view indeed, a very strange build-up. It's been a different time for Dynamite, for the world, obviously, but for Dynamite and wrestling fans. Despite all that, I'm still pretty excited for the pay-per-view. What'd you guys think of the show?
I thought the show was pretty, I don't know, it wasn't good, but it wasn't bad either. I was never, bored out of my mind watching it. I was just dumbfounded sometimes because it was kind of stupid at points. But overall, I wasn't bored, and I'll take that as a win.
It was a good show for a standalone AEW Dynamite. It was a below-average show in terms of what you would expect out of a go-home show, especially for something like Double or Nothing, which seems to be something they want to make like an annual thing. Like every year, they're going to have a Double or Nothing. Mm-hmm. So a little underwhelming in that sense, but if you're just judging it as a standalone episode, it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's weird. I think we might have a higher standard for a go-home or pre-pay-per-view show than even AEW does, because I feel like we come into these episodes the same type of way every time, where we're like, man, that was a good regular show, but leading into the pay-per-view, I wanted a little bit more. What they closed the show with a big brawl, a return of a couple of very exciting people, Hangman Page, the Young Bucks. That was really cool, but it also added to the idea that match they're going to have on Saturday is probably going to be a clusterfuck, because while it was a decent little brawl, it was very clusterfucky.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't something where I was like, man, do I want to see this for 20 minutes? There was no part of me that enjoyed that.
They did explain that the ring is going to be in the center of the field. I think that's an interesting aspect of it. We're gonna have to wait and see, but it's a little crazy. Phil, you were saying Kira?
Yeah, Kira had some comments about it. We'll talk about it a little more when the segment actually happens, because, like you said, when they announced that it's actually going to take place in the 50-yard line, she had some thoughts about it, which I agreed with what she said. So we'll dive into that when the actual segment happens.
Yeah, we will absolutely get there. We're going to go through the whole show. Just so everybody knows, we will be airing a pregame show on Saturday morning. It'll be going up on Spotify and everything late Friday night, Saturday morning. And we will re-air the podcast on Saturday morning, so you can hear all of our official takes on the pay-per-view. We're not going to jump directly into the pay-per-view today, but we do have a pay-per-view pregame show planned out for everybody. Let's talk about this week's Dynamite, though. This was an interesting Dynamite. It started off pretty strong. I'm not going to lie. We have the Inner Circle arriving in a limo. Chris Jericho talks to Alex Marvez for a minute and cuts a short, sweet promo, but it was a decent promo. A good introduction to the show, but there's not a whole lot to talk about here, is there?
No, I like the way they're presenting the Inner Circle, but aside from that, no.
Thought it was interesting that Hangman Adam Page was in the promo, because I was like, this dude doesn't even show up, and then by the end of the show he showed up, so I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, it was some good foreshadowing, if anything, putting those thoughts in your mind and letting you know, getting you thinking about him before he appeared. It's tough to have him reappear. What time did they want to do that? We'll get into that more when we get to that point, but it was nice to have the little bit of foreshadowing to get him fresh in your mind if you forgot about him for some reason. After this, we get Brody Lee, and he cuts a pretty good promo leading up to his pay-per-view match with Moxley, sort of hyping up 10 going into his match as well. What'd you guys think of this promo?
I thought it was good. I think Brody's been way better not doing these video packages, and just overall it's done a lot for his character. I don't have anything negative to say about it. I thought he did a good job of just being because you have to make him look like a viable competitor, even though he hasn't really beaten anyone serious. And I think they've done a good job as presenting him that way.
I thought this was a great promo. I still am blown away by how bad he was in pre-recorded segments, but when he's there, letting it flow naturally, he seems so much more
Yeah,
comfortable. His character isn't like as cringy anymore. Even when he made 10 to take a knee after hyping him up, basically bitching him out in front of everybody. It wasn't like done in a weird way, like when he was trying to be Vince McMahon. It kind of like evolving into his own character and not a parody of a man who actually exists. I thought he had a good line where he said that he's not a god, he's just a man. He just operates at a higher level. Which I thought that was a nice little line there. You know, I mean, man, that was a good promo.
And he did a good job at sort of elevating 10 just by talking about him. And they did a good job, I think, in the match itself that followed, where they gave 10 a little bit more on Moxley just to try and give people the idea that he's a little bit better than maybe everyone else in the Dark Order, just because he looks to be one of the more successful guys, especially without Uno and Dos around. So he had a decent match with Mox afterwards. Mox, of course, picking up the victory as you would expect, but it was decent. It was a decent squash where, again, like I said, 10 didn't necessarily ever look like he was going to win, but they did enough in it where I was like, he looks good. And I get what they're trying to do, because afterwards they have Moxley. He like grabs a chair. He grabs two chairs, actually, wraps one around 10's arm, grabs a mic, says, listen, Brody, you can either come back and bring me my title, or I'm going to take your man's arm. Brody gets on the Titantron and says, every man has to make sacrifices, so I'm going to head out. And essentially sacrifices his man 10 to have his arm busted after the match, which I thought this was interesting as well. It's a way we've been introduced to 10. He's had a couple of matches. He's been relatively successful. Now he gets time to be on the shelf and maybe continue to hone his craft and become a little bit better and come back with the Dark Order in a couple weeks. I think it's a smart thing to do, or maybe even a couple months.
Thought this was as good a squash match as any because it didn't go too long. Guy you knew was going to lose, looked good in spots. There was never really a chance. It never really felt like he was getting prolonged, like too much offense. You know, he was fighting John Moxley. You knew Moxley was going to win. Moxley looked like the better guy longer in the match. I loved the post-match promo. I thought it was Moxley at his best, where he brings out the chairs and he's like, look, I'm not going to chase you around all over this arena. I'm not going to chase you around Saturday night. Like, give me my title or I'm going to break this man's arm. And then Brody came on and he was like, I'm not playing that game. It's Saturday. And he broke his arm. The only really critique I have about this is he did it off camera. Like, we just saw the shot of Brody walking away like, life sucks. He like walks away. We don't see the impact of it, which I think is a big mistake. Like, I don't know why we don't need to see that. Like, don't get it.
yeah.
Other than that, it was great.
I agree. I thought it was a good squash match, just like, standard, and it made 10 look good, like you guys said. I thought the breaking his arm thing, I don't know how I feel about you just writing him off for 2 weeks, like you said, Andrew. I kind of think that's, I don't know, you're building this guy up and we just saw him wrestle John Moxley and now he's going to be gone for a while. But I don't know. Anyways, I thought it was a fine match, but the promo where Brody just kind of sacrifices him and throws him away was sick to me. I thought, damn, like, okay, if we're buying into him being like a Mr. McMahon character, then this is kind of the cool shit he needs to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, I liked kind of the whole situation here, and I get what you're saying in terms of, well, we've been building him up for a little bit. Why write him off right now? And I totally get that, and that's a justifiable idea for sure. But I do think that 10, like, he's a special type of character in a sense of, I don't think he's necessarily super ready to be like an impact player. Vance Joseph, I didn't know a whole lot about him leading into his debut with AEW. He started showing up with Cody a couple different times, and I just didn't know a lot about him. So now I think that he's someone that still needs to work on becoming, like, he hasn't looked bad. He hasn't really fucked anything up, but they haven't given him a whole lot of space to work either. So I imagine he's one of their like developmental type projects, and he's someone we could see become better.
Mhm.
So a couple more weeks to just continue to work on that and work on things. Sort of akin to Anthony Ogogo. We haven't really heard or seen anything from him, but you have to assume.
Really, I have no idea who that is.
I know, man, because you don't pay attention. It's fine. But with 10, I think it's good. And like I said, I liked that Brody kind of left his best man at this point just hanging because what's
Die.
important to him is keeping this title however he got it.
Just want to make a quick note that Vance Joseph is the former head coach of the Denver Broncos. It was Preston Vance that you were looking for.
Yeah, you know, we all have our moments, brother.
Forgot about Vance Joseph, but I knew that name.
Well, yes, it's not. Preston Vance is 10. So, yeah, this was a decent. I think that this was a really good segment to build into their pay-per-view match, though, and that's an important key factor here, is that they are building up to a decent title match. They still haven't done a whole lot to make me believe that Mox is going to lose, but maybe there's a way where Mox wins, but Brody still takes off with the title, and they try to continue this thing a couple more weeks. And not necessarily pay it off at the pay-per-view.
I think some fucky shit is going to go on in this match because you haven't seen Uno or...
They're stuck in Canada.
Are they really? So you won't see them at the pay-per-view? Because I thought that might be the payoff for them.
Nope, unlikely. They are a team that I believe was super fucked by this whole situation. I think
it seemed like they were finally going to take off. Like they had the wins, they were being booked well, but
they were number one and undefeated on the year. I want to say
didn't really click until this all started, and then they had to go away.
Yeah, and it'll be weird to see them come back because it's become noticeable at this point. But
it feels
not
like
even
they've lost their momentum.
Those two have, but the Dark Order continues to stay almost on track, if not be better than where it was. So it's not like they're missing those two. It would be a little bit probably better with those two around because you could have a lot more going on. But I don't think that they're really missing a whole lot without them, especially it's given them time to now introduce 10, and he's kind of become his own interesting story.
Yeah, you're right. 10 has kind of overshadowed Grayson and Uno, and I don't think that's the worst thing, honestly. I think that's kind of a cool thing that's coming out of this, is that we're kind of advancing a really cool heater for Brody, and also it's cool seeing Brody with the bodyguards and not being one.
Yes, absolutely, and he's done a good job with what we've been given throughout this pandemic period. So I was glad to see that. Someone we haven't seen a lot of during this pandemic has been MJF. He was in the following match against Marco Stunt. This was an interesting match because it's mostly just MJF bullying Marco around, but Marco gets a little bit of offense here. But it was a good showcase, I guess, for MJF and kind of build up to that Jungle Boy match. But it wasn't like a home run or anything. It just I like Marco matches. He kind of does well in his position and makes whoever he's facing, look good. And Max did really good at just bullying him. So,
yeah, he did. He made him pick his nose and eat his boogers. It was great. I can't ask for much more than that. But it was a cool match. It did its job. Marco wasn't completely, I don't know. He just got his ass beat. But like you said, it makes it better for Jungle Boy. And I still don't really love the MJF Jungle Boy match, but they're trying to make it work, and that's cool, I guess.
This match made me think that Max is gonna lose. And
really?
I just because MJF is going into it with so much momentum that for him to just steamroll Jungle Boy at this point, it would be fine by me, but it doesn't seem like something the way they'd book it. I think that at this point they're gonna give Jungle Boy some shocking victory. And then try to build a storyline between those two, because I think they're going to continue a lot of the storylines they've got going into this pay-per-view coming out of it. I don't think any of this is necessarily an end point for what's going on, and that's weird because we have a lot of storylines that have been going on really long because of the pandemic. We have the Orange Cassidy and Pac situation still going on and doesn't even feel like it's hardly started because of what happened with coronavirus. So I really think that they might try and extend this situation between MJF and Jungle Boy.
Yeah, I kind of see your point. I still don't know. I still think MJF is gonna get the win. I just think they're gonna make Jungle Boy look strong doing it, and like status quo Jungle Boy.
Thought this was a good match. Crow is always really good at these matches where he is the underdog. I feel like I don't want to characterize person as being like a one-trick pony and they only fit in this kind of match type, but I feel like the Marco matches that I really like and enjoy, the matches where he's the underdog and not where he's like in a tag team match and supposed to be on equal grounds with his opponent, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This felt like a match, last two Marco matches on TV where you knew he was going to lose against Lee and against Archer. Physically, you knew he was going to lose, but physically, he was impossible for him to win. This one, I knew he was going to lose, but I mean, physically on paper, MJF isn't like a big intimidating guy. I felt like Marco might like roll him up or something dumb, and then he gets beat up, and that leads up to the pay-per-view where MJF wins. Because like AJ, I do expect MJF to win. And that would have been a good way to add interest to the feud. I don't know. I agree with you, Andrew, that it seems very one-sided at this point, and I wouldn't be shocked if Jungle Boy won. It's like one of the matches on the pay-per-view where I feel split. I don't really know who's going to win, but it's not like I'm super looking forward to it because there's very little stakes involved, honestly.
I'm with you in the thought that at a point, at least for a second or two here, I thought that maybe Marco would pull off some type of weird upset on MJF to lead into the pay-per-view. I'm glad that didn't happen. Because I think that they should at some point do that where Marco gets some crazy upset over somebody, but this wasn't really the time or place for that. It was weird to watch this match because earlier on in the day I watched Marco Stunt's match on Dark. It was kind of the only match I paid too much attention to on Dark because at one point Marco got elbowed straight in the face, looked like he broke his nose, and continued to have a good match and actually pick up a victory, which is surprising for Marco, obviously over an enhancement talent level guy, but still a victory for Marco to sort of show that he's not just enhancement. He's not just someone who will lose every single match. So
he tells a good story in the ring, like every time, basically. He tells good stories in the ring, especially when he's outmatched like this.
The one thing I will say is I wish he had, he's still a little green or something, and he's young, obviously, but there was a sequence where he tried to do a kip up in the corner and then hit a running knee. And if he had hit that smooth and clean, oh man, it would have been like you would be talking about how this guy is literally one of the best wrestlers in the world because he's able to do these things. He's not. That was the unfortunate part. He slipped up a little bit. It wasn't super smooth and it wasn't perfect. But it's a cool idea to think if he gets time to perfect some of this stuff in the next 5 years, he could be not one of the best wrestlers in the world, but a very interesting talent because it wasn't something I had really seen, just a small guy like that kip up and do a running knee strike. It was very interesting and cool for him. But yeah, MJF with the victory, obviously leading into the pay-per-view, setting that up. We get Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy coming down. Luchasaurus gets in the face of Wardlow, so they're obviously building up to that a little bit in some way, shape, or form as well. I'm surprised it's not a pay-per-view match. I would rather see that than another match we get announced later on. So
I'm surprised they're doing nothing with Luchasaurus in general. Usually,
no, he's in the ladder match.
Oh yeah, you're right. He is. So never mind.
Does he actually have a chance to win that?
Not really, but at the same time, when we do our preview show and talk about that, I'm curious to see who you guys really think is gonna win. It's gonna be that's
another one. I don't have any idea.
That's a fun one, and that's a fun thing about that match, and we'll get to that at that point. But I liked this. I thought it was a decent little setup, and Luchasaurus, they had to set some stuff up for him. I hope that this isn't some type of weird way to position Wardlow to be the seventh man. If you want to have a surprise person, let it be a surprise, someone cool. That's what I'm anticipating at this point. There was a slew of talent released just a month ago. So if it's not something, and it doesn't have to be one of those guys, it could be anyone interesting. But if it's just, I would be fine with Jeff Cobb. But if it's just Wardlow, that would be mighty disappointing. So I hope that's not what this was, and I don't really think it was. But The next segment didn't do anything for me. I'm not going to lie, and it's unfortunate. Big fans of Jake the Snake on this podcast. Decent fans of Arn Anderson on this podcast. A really cool dude, really interesting guy to listen to speak when he's talking about just wrestling in general. But this segment did nothing for me, man. It felt like for the over 50 group. I don't know, man. Boomer sooner, brother.
I hated everything about this. It was
you guys
bad.
are garbage.
It was stupid. It was a Jim Cornette angle.
It was for Cornette.
It was for Jim Cornette. They made it for him so that he'll manage the revival. And it's not going to work. And I don't know, dude, it dragged on. It was weird. Arn Anderson kept trying to talk, and then Jake Roberts would just talk over him. And it was just awkward. There was no like, I know it's unscripted and that's a good thing and all, but sometimes it's not, bro.
Oh, I cannot disagree with you guys more. I love this segment, man.
This is bad because when I do this, that means I'm the one in the wrong, and wrestling Twitter is very much behind it. And I did not look during this. So,
dude, for some reason, past few weeks when these guys have been beefing, they've been beefing a little bit. I mean, Arn hasn't really been on TV that much, but Jake's been like taking shots at him in the promos, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to see them have a match.
No, dude.
The conflict,
a cinematic match. There you go, bro. Cinematic story.
I also don't think that this was a horrible idea to have these guys hype up this match because, I mean, really, what would another pull-apart brawl do for us? This was an interesting, out-of-the-box kind of way to have two managers hype their guys. Their guys aren't even seen on TV the whole night. And really, in this case, you don't really have to have them on TV. I would have liked to see them on TV to hype the match more, but that's one. They've gotten so much TV time the past few weeks. It was good to focus on other things, give other things some
But this
time.
was so long. Like, I get what you're saying. This was really long.
Was long, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I wasn't entertained by their verbal back and forth. Their fucking pull-apart brawl was great. It wasn't great, but it was like, I didn't really expect it to go in that direction, and I've wanted it to go in that direction for a sick way, and it happened. And they didn't do a pull-apart brawl last week when Cody and Archer got into it, but they did it this week when these two old men were scrapping, and I was all for it. I am also very hyped up by the fact that Kira absolutely hates Jake the Snake Roberts more than any person on AEW because of what he did to Brandy Rhodes. He made another remark tonight. He wants to bump into Brandy again, being all rapey and shit. Not rapey.
Oh, God.
Just like, like he's got that like creepy old man way. Like he's a bad man.
Yeah.
It's a bad man. And Kira is very anti Jake Roberts. I think it's the first time going into any match where Cody's going to be in. Maybe the MJF match, but it's the first time I've ever seen her actively want Cody to beat someone's ass. Definitively.
It's an interesting match, and I the one thing I will say is I'm glad that if they're going to do this, they didn't have Cody and Archer do anything else. They didn't have any type of
it was an interesting
brawl
way
with
to
them
build it up.
because it just sets the standard with this type of thing. Two managers sitting down, and this didn't hit it out of the park. But it's always Cody who tries something a little different. It might not be something brand new. It might be actually something very old that was done back in the day. But Cody's always the one who puts himself out there and tries some of these things, and if they work, they work. If they don't, they don't. I think a lot of this stuff with Arn hasn't, because Cody doesn't feel like someone who needs a mouthpiece. He never really has felt throughout his tenure in AEW, he hasn't felt like he's needed a mouthpiece. So that's one point where it just kind of throws me off. And just the fact that it's Arn, like I totally get they have a real life relationship, but for me, it doesn't. I don't really see why Cody and Arn are best buddies. I totally get that there is a reason because of Arn's past with Dusty and everything. But to me, as a fan of just Cody, it's not so built into my brain that there's.
They don't like. It would be nice if they did a little history, little like video package or something, just an explanation. Because kind of one day Arn showed up and he was coach.
Yeah,
it's just not very. It's not a very natural pairing, I guess, is the best way to put it. They just don't naturally blend together. But and I don't want to sound like it was the worst thing we've seen throughout this whole pandemic. I get the point of it, but it didn't do a whole lot for me. It was just two old
No,
guys
but
talking.
you're right.
Negative on it. I
Arn gets
loved it.
heat with me whenever he is talking for Cody because it's like I don't want to hear you talk. I want to hear Cody.
Yes, and that's kind of the situation there. But for Jake, it makes all the sense in the world. I don't really want to hear Archer over him.
No,
Exactly.
So the way that they set this up is totally fine and kind of cool. Like I said, it's something different and a good way to lead up to a fight. There are other ways to do
say
it
that
too.
if these guys had a fucking 5-minute overbooked crazy ass match, wouldn't
God,
love it.
no, I would not.
No.
It would be so
would be-
great. It would
it would-
blow my mind.
Why
we
would
would
I
have
want
to
see
change
that?
the name from
Because
All
they've
Elite
never
Andy
fought
to
ever.
Angry Andy. It would just be Angry Andy talking all types of garbage. So no,
Dude, I
and we're
want
not
to see
gonna
him put a
spend
snake
one
on
more.
Mike Tyson.
We're not gonna spend one more second. Well, on Mike Tyson, bro, no.
Dude, in the promo, Arn
I
Anderson was
know.
talking about Mike Tyson. He said,
No.
"Are you going to put the snake on Tyson?"
He's
And
gonna
Jake
knock
Roberts
out. Mike Tyson's gonna knock out Jake the Snake Roberts, bro. That's
Jake
all that's
Roberts
gonna
said
happen.
He didn't care because Lance Archer could knock out Mike Tyson, which
Oh damn! Mike Tyson's gonna knock out everybody. Watch. After this segment, this very long old man segment, we get a very interesting video from someone we haven't seen in a while. We get a Pac promo, essentially just speaking for the Death Triangle a little bit, leading up to a match between Orange Cassidy and Phoenix. It wasn't a whole lot, but it was cool to see Pac.
Yeah, it's nice to see Pac and his new split personality, whatever that was, and I thought it was cool. I thought Pac's doing his best from home, and it looked nice. It was lit very well. It didn't sound great. The audio wasn't there, but it was lit very well. He did a good job of whatever he went to set this up and cut a promo, and I hope we have more of these.
Yeah, I turned the volume up when this promo happened. Kira thought that she was talking too loudly on the phone, and I said, no, I just can't understand his accent. It was good to see Pac on TV. I totally forgot he was in the Lucha stable. I can't remember what dumb name they
The
had.
Death Triangle, bro.
Yeah, whatever. It's dumb. This is fine. You know, yes, he did have a split personality where his split personality follows the rules of COVID-19, even though he's alone in a dungeon or something in a recliner. It was fine. I was a little disappointed that this feud is still going on. I assume that the bigger picture storyline is going to be Best Friends trio against Death Triangle.
Man,
I guess that's a good jumping off point for Death Triangle because I would assume they would win that, and Best Friends have been established the past few months. So, I mean, I'm not going to act like I'm excited for it, but booking wise, makes sense.
I don't know how much I appreciate them following up on angles pre-COVID. Like, I super understand why they're doing it. Like, this was something we established before, so we really want to try and finish it off. But you can just not. I mean, you're not giving us blood and guts. You don't have to give us the Death Triangle versus Best Friends at this point, especially without Pac being able to be in the States. The one thing I will say is that them being a trio and Pac being able to speak for Phoenix, if Phoenix is going to be a singles guy for a while, is an interesting thing, even if from a distance and he's only able to cut promos from overseas. Leading into Phoenix matches like this is one way to do it. I like that Pac can just speak for someone who probably isn't going to cut the best promos for himself, just because now they're in a trio that barely even got formed, but they have that to utilize.
It sucks for them because they're a trio that's barely formed, and apparently only one guy is going to be showing up on television.
Yeah, and he's a really good one to show up. I mean, all three of them, honestly, would have been fine in this position. He might be the best one because he has the opportunity to really elevate himself at this point. I would love to see that be the case, that he's able to elevate himself through this. But I'm definitely with you that continuing the Pac and Orange Cassidy thing, again, it makes so much sense, and that's what, like, it's fucked up to be like, well, why are you guys trying to make sense? But, like, we could have just moved on. That's my biggest takeaway from it.
I have a point to make. We did skip a small segment. It happened, so we got to talk about it. Darby Allin promo. What'd you guys think of that?
Oh, it was fine, standard.
Yeah, vintage Darby Allin promo. Everybody at the poker table had faces of his opponents on the ladder match, and he climbed a ladder and stared down on us.
I wanted him to throw himself through the table, bro. Like, all right,
That would have been great.
It's-
Holy shit! Didn't
it-
even think of that.
it's unfortunate for Darby Allin. I said this in our group chat. He's very much a pre-COVID act, where before COVID, with the crowd and everything, he was very, very hot, had a lot going for him. Since, it has been no good. He had a little bit of a run in that tournament, obviously got stopped by Cody Rhodes, which has led to a decent Cody Rhodes feud, so I'm not mad about it.
Like that's where his momentum died.
Yeah, and it's just kind of been continuing to die more and more. I absolutely think that this situation with Taz is leading to something.
No way, bro. I was about to say they stopped it this week. It's not
Yeah,
gonna
they
happen.
did. They stopped it this week. It was nothing, man. It was
No,
just a
because
coincidence.
on Dark, all right, we'll see. Give it a couple more weeks.
If Alex Marvez interviews
Nah,
the
dude.
Inner Circle every week, is he gonna join?
Well, there wasn't
Lil
an,
Nate
there
in
wasn't an
WCW?
interview. There wasn't an interview this week, but so during Darby's match on Dark, it was kind of subtle. But Taz is sitting there constantly referencing him losing to Cody. He lost to Cody. He lost to Cody. He lost to Cody. That's the thing that has been pissing Darby off the most. So that's why I think it's still going to happen. Yeah, we didn't get a whole lot of it or any of it this week. There just wasn't a whole lot of Darby this week. So it's kind of, and they want to focus on Darby going into this pay-per-view match. So I don't know. And I could totally be wrong. If there's nothing else next week, I'll be on your guys' side that it was absolutely pointless and stupid. But it's weird. It's still weird. Darby has suffered just a difficult situation with all of this. His momentum has totally been killed. His legs have been chopped out from underneath him. He literally pinned himself to lose in the title match, and now you follow that bad finish with nothing but bad promos going into the he's someone I would have been going into that been like, I think he's gonna win that championship opportunity. He probably still might, but he's not a home run hitter for me now. Like, he's not someone I'm saying 100%.
I just want to point out that that's the second time we've met AEW Dark tonight. 2 separate segments. So who's the real Dark champ?
The must-see moment from AEW Dark was when Darby Allin beat some jobber with a funky roll-up. Tune in
I hate
to
the roll-up.
AEW Dark.
I hate the roll-up.
The funky roll-up. That's Darby's
called?
finish. The funky
Do
roll-up.
you know what it's called?
Nah, Taz hyped it up. He was talking about how it was a real technical maneuver.
It has a dumb name to it.
It does
If
have a
anybody
dumb
remembers
name. I
it.
don't remember it.
The
Me neither.
funky roll-up.
Anyways.
That's what I said. Moving on.
Anyways,
This match was the match itself was pretty decent. It was fun enough. Phoenix picking up a victory over it's a kind of a significant victory just because Orange Cassidy was one of the most popular figures when we had fans. Hard to tell these days, but it's a good win for Phoenix, especially going into the ladder match. So I'm glad he got that. Then of course we do a big brawl with all of the people involved in the ladder match, which is fine. So it was another brawl. A lot of brawls.
I didn't like it. It was
Colt
okay. I
Cabana
didn't
did
like
a fucking acai moonsault. What do you want?
I didn't like the match because I thought the ending was really weird with Kip Sabian just staring at Orange Cassidy to distract him. I thought the post-match stuff was fine, but then Rey Fenix hit the floor and died, and I was like, oh, I'm taken out of this now.
dude, not only did he hit the floor, but Colt Cabana also, no one catch that man.
Yeah,
He did it.
I don't know if
like-
it's just the amount of room they have between the apron and the ring, so they're trying
It
really
might
hard
be.
to make sure they don't hit
who wanted
the
to catch Colt
guardrail.
Cabana? He's a fat fuck anyway.
Yo, leave, dude. I was excited when Colt Cabana did his acai moonsault.
I
He
thought it
looked-
was crazy too. I've never seen him do that.
I'm
I don't
excited to
watch a
see
lot of
what
his
he does
matches.
in the ladder match based off of that. I was like, okay. I think that was the point too. Is you're supposed to go from being like, oh, Colt in the ladder match, and then he does something like that. This is I'm super interested in the ladder match. It's one that I'm kind of excited to talk about. But the build up for it, it's hard to build up matches like that. I think the best way to do it is really to do like qualifier buy-in type situations where someone has to win their way into the match. That makes it a lot more, and you could do a lot more with building a story out of that. This type of thing, just tossing people in, they all come out and brawl. It's not the best, but I'm still excited for the ladder match. They did something, and it was better than nothing. So, fuck it. That's the idea.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't hate it. I just didn't love it.
After this, go ahead.
I Match itself was fine. I thought, as always, Ray Phoenix was really great, especially to like casual fans. The stuff he does is crazy. If you watch enough of his matches, he kind of like desensitized to how crazy the shit he does actually is. A little bit exposed here was Orange Cassidy. His offense without the crowd is kind of like dumb to watch,
especially if you're not into it. It kind of depends. Like if you want to buy into
watching it for the first time, you're not. I don't know,
for the
man.
first time, you're such a dick,
dude. I'm just saying, like, what you want to do is
the crowd,
viewers every week.
The crowd helps it a lot, 100%.
It does. It does.
And that he's one of the ones kind of sort of in the same situation as Darby, where a lot of his momentum has sort of been cut out from underneath him.
I'm not gonna say that he looked like bad in this match, but there were times where like his offense was so hokey when they were on the top turnbuckle and Phoenix is trying to like throw him off, and he counters it by putting his hands in his pocket and looking very serious. Like that did not come off well on TV at all with nobody there. I mean, and I will say that the few people that were ringside reacted well to some things in the show. That's one part where like nobody ringside got it.
I don't really even like that
and
shit
it translated
anymore
on TV like that.
Now's a good time to talk about that better than any. I don't even really like the crowd that they've built at this point. It's the same. It's the same regular developmental talent. So it just feels like
brother.
It feels like
you know who I saw
it feels like the only people who watch Dynamite are fucking losers.
Dude, do you know what I saw ringside today? Who I've never seen before was the Butcher and the Blade, because I said
more
last
losers.
Week, those guys might as well be dead.
More losers.
They were there this week.
I don't think you need to do it at Daly's Place, because at Daly's Place it's an open arena and the sound doesn't like stay at that QT Marshall training place or whatever. It sounded way better.
Okay, so would you rather? So what's the problem? The venue's too big.
The venue's outdoors.
No,
and
the crowd just sucks.
We all agreed that the one week they didn't have anybody ringside. That show sucked because it had no energy at all.
If you're gonna, you're right. But if you're gonna, here's my point. If you're gonna have a crowd that sounds fake because you know that they're booing what they're supposed to boo and cheering what they're supposed to cheer, just pipe in fucking audio. If you want it to sound, to sound fake, just use fake audio. It would be way better.
I'll counter this point in saying that when that Anderson Jake segment happened and the crowd was really reacting to it, I was feeling those same emotions, so I vibed with the crowd.
They should have been
during
chanting,
that segment.
Boring.
No, it was not, because it wasn't. Boring. And if there was a crowd there, you'd be fucking the dick of that segment. That segment was awesome.
That's what the crowd would have been chanting.
Go to the grave saying that segment was the best thing on.
It was boring.
Oh, that's what the crowd would have been chanting. That's what's funny. Is I literally had that thought in my head, like this fake crowd sucks because they're not even chanting boring for a boring segment. But
the AEW crowd would never
and that's kind of that's kind of my point too. Well,
sure.
Yeah, you're right. The AEW crowd wouldn't have done that to their brothers, but it's kind of the point. Is this fake crowd? They're buying into, and at some points they're almost missing it, and that's what's fucking retarded. There I go again.
You gotta cut that one.
But no, it was I don't know. It just they didn't do the best there. Good match between Phoenix and Orange Cassidy though, and I'm glad Phoenix got a victory. He deserves it. Good brother. After this, we get Britt Baker and Nyla Rose taking on Hikaru Shida and Chris Statlander. They pick up the victory in about 10 minutes. Nyla beating Hikaru clean, leading into their pay-per-view matchup.
Yeah, that definitely surprised me. I was expecting Nyla to go over, honestly. I wasn't even expecting her to lose, but I didn't expect her to go over Hikaru Shida like with a clean beast bomb. Why? That's my only question, I suppose. Why? And then I get it that Hikaru Shida, like moments later, got her momentum back by putting her through the table, but you still just got beat.
I think it's to make the smart fans who would look at the alternative, and say, well, Nyla's definitely going to win the pay-per-view. Like, if Shida wins this match, we go into the pay-per-view saying, well, Nyla's definitely going to win because that's 50-50 booking. Maybe it's to get people to say, oh, maybe Shida's going to win now because she lost on Dynamite. People think weird, But honestly, it just makes me double down on Nyla winning. I never thought Nyla was going to really lose, despite how good of a run Sheeta's had. I just don't see them going in that direction right away. So based upon that, I see, and then Nyla winning here, I don't think they want to do 50-50 booking. So because it's AEW, I'm almost saying, well, yep, this definitely means Nyla's going to win because they're not going to do a 50-50 scenario.
I have a few thoughts about this match. Maybe I overanalyze things because I watched
Typically.
with a woman, and she really like breaks down the women's segments.
Wow,
way
dude, way
more
to
than...
separate the women's demographic. I'm trying to
I'm just
target
saying.
by bringing Kira on as the
No,
fourth host in the near future, and here you are trying to
just
run
saying
off all the women before we even get there. I
just saying
think
that she
women
breaks it
aren't
down
hard to watch
breaks it down
wrestling
in
with.
such a cerebral way.
Cerebral Assassin. That's her nickname, the Cerebral Assassin, Kira.
It's great because
Hunter.
I thought this match was booked well. Statlander obviously was seen as and booked as number 4 in this.
She's continuing
it
to get
seemed like
left behind.
Yes, that's true. It was the top 4 women of the division in this match, and she definitely seemed like number 4. She got beat up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't really get a whole lot of offense in. Baker played the heel. At one point, she got choked by Nyla because she wouldn't tagged in, but it happened on a commercial break, which was the best spot of the whole match, man. It was being built up the whole first half of the match. Then it happened off screen. It was crazy. It was a badass moment for Nyla. She looked like a beast because of it. She was gonna beat up her own partner if she didn't participate. I thought beating Sheeta clean before the pay-per-view was confusing, but then again, she already beat Sheeta in a fatal 4-way. She beat her clean, and Sheeta was being booked really strongly at that point too. So it's not the first time that it's happened. And it, like you said, it does make me doubt who's going to win that match.
It's like reverse
really know.
psychology, dude. That's how I feel like I feel like what's going on here. I feel like when you catch someone trying to get you in reverse psychology where they're like, oh, we're not going to do what the other guy does. And it's like, oh, well, you actually are. It's just a different way.
I will agree with you that I expect Isla to win that.
They just ripped all the momentum from this match. Even like because there was some, it's hard to deny with Hikaru being on such a run, having a couple of really good, interesting matches throughout the pandemic when Nyla was gone. It had an interesting thought to it. Now I'm out, man. Even if Sheeta wins, I'm like, well, now we're doing 50-50 booking. I'm cool if Nyla wins. I'd almost rather it, but I know it's gonna happen now.
Mm-hmm. I kind of am with you. I would double down. Nyla's going to win. And I don't know. Like, I think the biggest thing that you said there is that the momentum's gone from it because I just saw her get beat.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. We got to see her make this comeback post-match, but it didn't do a whole lot to reestablish the match itself for me in any way, shape, or form. After this, we get another Jon Moxley interview. He says this Saturday, Brody Lee is going to sleep. When he wakes up, he will have lost the match and lost any power that he had. Just another situation where I feel like they're leading. I think it's going to lead to a feud continuing after the show. Maybe Brody doesn't win, but he still leaves with the title. I could totally be wrong. Mox could go over very clean, leave, and be done with it. But the way that he's positioning this promo and saying that when Brody loses, he loses all of his power, it makes me think that it's not just going to be that cut and dry.
Yeah, I don't know, because you could easily see this having like just, oh, it's a filler feud and it's here today and gone tomorrow. But what would that do for Brody long term? And
I agree.
So I think you're probably right that it's not going to end at the pay-per-view and probably going to have a finish up on TV, which is fine because then they can just start the program for Jon Moxley with whoever he's going to actually maybe have a significant threat.
At this point, like as much of a like, it's like, damn, this pay-per-view already isn't going to have like a very huge crowd. We're not going to have all the things you would expect from a pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. Like, do we really want to close? And maybe that means they'll close with a TNT title match. I mean, maybe that's what I would do. At this point, that's probably what I would do. It might devalue your world title a little bit, but it elevates that secondary title quite a bit early on. and it might not be a bad idea, honestly, because of this match. And I would end this match in some type of hijinks because Brody's deserved to extend this storyline. From the second it started between these two, I was like I said, day one, I was like, if you told me about this in the morning, I would hate it, but I love it. And it's kind of been that way with every segment. I've pretty much enjoyed every bit of it. And in an interview that Mox did, I don't necessarily remember who it was, but he said something about just hyping up Brody as a person and saying like it was someone had to step up into that position, and a really great guy did, and it's unfortunate I'm going to have to beat him or whatever. So it gives me this thought that there was like a bit of a feeling out process of who do we have face Moxley that's probably going to lose to him at the pay-per-view, who's willing to step up and sort of sacrifice their push to this point. And Brody's done it. So I think at that point, push this feud out a little bit and make it mean something.
I'm going to say that if this extended, it wouldn't be something that I would hate. My only other point this promo is the pay-per-view coming up where it feels like there's a lot more misses than hits. This has been a surprising hit the whole way through. Mm-hmm. I've loved every single segment that they've had together. And I think both guys are going to come away looking real well.
Yeah.
It's not something you can say really often in today's booking. It's where both guys come away looking real good.
Yeah, and it's done. They've done well, and that's why I think it should extend out a little bit, because that would just help each guy look better going forward, is by making it extend out a little bit. And I think the natural progression, the way that AEW has sort of positioned itself and the way they're sticking to their guns with storylines they started early on, makes me think that next up is Mox versus MJF. And I don't think that needs to happen yet. And at the other hand of that, who else can you put in that position? So make both of their feuds last a little longer. Do the Jungle Boy and MJF thing for a couple months, or a month, even another month, and then same with Mox.
I don't know about that one.
I'm betting you, man. I would be willing to bet on that one. I've changed my mind.
I'm not saying that I don't if it's going to happen, but do I want to hit?
That's fair, man. This next segment I did not want to see, and I never want to see another one like it. We have Sean Spears news. I'm going to let AJ take the wheel here because he's a Sean Spears guy. So go ahead.
Don't make me shit on my boy.
All right.
It's not good. It's not good, AJ.
It wasn't great, but you know what? It could have been worse. It was Sean Spears news, SSN, not Social Security number. And he told us Dustin Rhodes, I think, retired. I have to bring up the notes here.
Yeah, he said he retired.
Yeah, he said Dustin Rhodes retired only to challenge him to a match. Also, he made fun of Dustin's drug addiction.
Yo, that was my one takeaway from this segment.
The must-see moment of AEW Dynamite.
Must-see moment of the Sean Spears Network was the pill-popping comment made by him referencing Dustin's drug addictions in the late 80s and early 90s.
What about the 2000s, brother?
Yeah,
well, I don't know about his
Black Rain, brother.
That probably is why Goldust was such
Black
a great
Rain,
character in that
Black
era.
Rain gimmick, brother, wasn't...
Oh, shit, that's when he was at his worst.
Yeah.
Anyways, this segment was...
at its worst, I'm not going to lie. It did nothing for me, made me think, why are we leading up to a match between these two at the pay-per-view?
I'll be fair here, okay? It wasn't a bad promo.
You literally said, who wants to see this?
And here's what I'm going to say. It's not leading to a program that I want to see. Never want to see this. I think the idea of that Dustin retires and fake retires every 2 months. I mean, he's been doing this since he fought Cody.
It was going to be his last match, dude. Yeah,
it's last run. It's been dragged out at this point. But I'm going to say that the promo that Spears cut was good. Okay, it was good.
By dragging it out, it's kind of smart, though. I'm not going to lie. Because for me, as a person who has gotten to a point where now I'm like, Dustin's been pretty good over the last year or so with AEW. I don't want him to retire. If you asked me 2 years ago, I'd be like, fuck yeah, have him retire.
Yeah,
so now that we're teasing it and it's becoming a thing, like I'm like, oh man, don't retire now, man. Like, you're kind of putting on really fun matches. You can a win for Spears here doesn't do a whole lot for him, but it's I feel like beating Dustin is significant at this point because of what they've done with him. So I don't want to see him retire right now.
It's 55.
Dude, that's fair, brother. I don't want him to win the title. I just don't want him to hang it up. He's doing crazy shit now.
And he gets the
Flippy
crowd whenever
Dustin.
there was a crowd pop
There
for
will
him.
never be a crowd again.
Never ever.
Ever. So get used to it, AJ. That's what we're looking forward to on Saturday. Crowdless pay-per-view. And after that segment, we got a rundown of the pay-per-view. I'm going to quickly run through it. We're going to be getting to our preview show on Saturday, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. But for the full card, we have the buy-in pre-show, Private Party versus the Best Friends in a number one contenders match, the Stadium Stampede. We have Chris Statlander taking on Britt Baker, which I have to assume would also be put on the buy-in, but maybe not.
It definitely will be.
We have Kaz taking Kaz, Darby Allin, Scorpio Sky, Orange Cassidy, Phoenix, Luchasaurus, Colt Cabana, Kip Sabian, and a surprise entrant taking part in the Casino Ladder match, where that's an interesting one. It starts off with two guys every 90 seconds. Someone new is going to enter, so the surprise entrant may never even get to enter. That would be fucked up, but kind of funny. We also have MJF taking on Jungle Boy, Nyla Rose defending her women's title against Hikaru Shida, Cody challenging Archer for the TNT title, and Brody Lee taking on Jon Moxley. And for some reason, AJ has put Dustin Rhodes versus Shawn Spears
I
at
wrote
the
it the
very
way
top
they
of his
announced
list.
them.
Real.
I know that was weird, but I just wrote it the
Main
way they
event,
announced
brother.
them.
They always put the best matches for the main event.
And then they announced for next week a Battle Royal where the winner will face the TNT champion on June 3rd. Battle
Weird.
Royals in AEW suck.
Weird.
But, I mean, you say it's weird. I think it's a good way to establish a first number one contender
not
for a
gonna say
secondary
that.
title.
I'm going to say it's a bad way to name a random number one contender. I'm also going to say in this climate,
This
Battle Royal
climate.
really
Oh,
the best-
okay.
Is it really the best idea to do a battle royal? You'll have people bitching on Twitter.
Dude, it's over. If
I
you
didn't think
ask,
about
if you ask the people of, yeah, because people forgot, dude. It's over.
that.
It's over.
I agree, brother. It's over.
So, you're right, though. I mean, you're very right, and it's probably going to end up being like a 9-person battle royal, which is probably for the best because, like I said, their battle royals have not been the best.
Hey, man. I bet a Haas is going to come in and clean house, and there's never actually going to be that many
Wardlow?
people in the ring at the time. Yeah, Wardlow is a
Or
good option.
Luchasaurus maybe taking on
No,
Archer.
I
It depends
really
on who
feel
wins the
like
title,
that.
but yeah, a decent little battle royal, something to look forward to. And the TNT champion should be defending his title on the TNT network, so that makes a lot of sense as well. Then we get a video package for our main event, Matt Hardy taking on Sammy Guevara, in which Matt Hardy wins. Post-match, Matt Hardy goes to attack Sammy, but of course the Inner Circle appears, and they're attacking Kenny Omega. They're killing him with a baseball bat and other shit. A surprise, the Young Bucks, please come home. Young Bucks, please come home. The Young Bucks have returned, and they make the save. We have a huge brawl going on. He who must not be named may finally be named once again. Hangman Page strides throughout the freaking football field like a stallion and fucking clotheslines everybody and then leaves. Arrive, clothesline, leave, as he should. He doesn't get paid by the hour. Show up for your minutes just like the Young Bucks and go home. This was
Thought
good,
it
though.
was funny.
It wasn't the best, but it was
I
good.
liked the match a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really solid main event match, and Sammy G didn't look like a geek because it took like 3 Twist of Fates, and he sold them like he was getting murdered. And
I'm
I don't
so
know. I thought the
happy
match
for
was
him,
really
dude.
good. I was very confused as to how Matt Hardy teleported to the field.
He
at
could.
the
First
end
of all,
the
I don't
brawl.
understand what's confusing about that at all. He could fucking
I
teleport
guess-
anywhere.
I guess
We
you're
saw
right.
that
He's shown his
months
teleporting
ago.
abilities on TV before, so
He
it
started
doesn't make-
teleporting once he got the coronavirus because that's
I
when all of
guess
this
so.
started. Damascus. It was good though. I'm not gonna lie. It was nice to see the Young Bucks again. It was nice to see Hangman, of course. Good way to build up to whatever this clusterfuck of a fight is going to be. I don't know how I feel about it because it just sounds like a match on a football field, and like I don't get how that's a
Yeah.
stipulation. And I don't really want to see them bring in a whole bunch of like huge ladders or oh, we got a train.
Choo-choo.
The big choo-choo. No, but it should be a good match. I just don't know what they could do because like you would think with so much open room they're going to someone's going to fly off of something very, very high, but that kind of takes away from the ladder match that we have to look forward to that night. So but in the context of this match itself, I want to say, and it's been something that Phil complained about a while ago and complained about tonight, why does the main event suck? I think this was a very interesting main event, and it elevates Sammy. I feel like every week they kind of go out of their way to use the main event for that purpose, to elevate one of the competitors in the main event. Matt, obviously already established as a main eventer, but taking on Sammy, someone who's not super established. And I think it does mean something when you are on the last match on the show more times than not. Sammy hasn't necessarily won a whole bunch, but he's had a good run, and he's someone I'm really happy for, that he's been able to have this run alongside Jericho. Like, at some point, he will get his own opportunity to do his own thing as a singles, and this is doing a lot to help establish that.
Definitely.
I will admit that I was wrong tonight.
You usually are.
Most underwhelming match on the card, aside from maybe MJF Marco, that was announced last week. I thought it was this thing that and really great. Emmy countered the twist of fate in a crazy way at one point. These exaggerated moves. He's getting absolutely murdered by the move. I thought it was going to be scenarios, but he kind of like got himself with the song out of it, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, overall, though, Sammy looked good in the main event. Everything the whole thing closed out well. Hangman just sort of leaving, not taking a whole lot of time to stick around after making the save. Social distancing himself, if you will, from the elite. And who knows where this continues to lead. I hope we don't get the turn at the pay-per-view, just because it should be something that happens with a crowd. It was unfortunate he had to make a return without a crowd, because the pop for that would have been huge. You felt it on wrestling Twitter if you were a part of that. That's basically the main thing everyone was talking about. Hangman running across 100 yards to hit a clothesline on Jericho. And it was fun. It was fun to see these guys back. It has me looking forward to the pay-per-view for sure. So I think they did a decent job. I think going over this show probably did a little bit more for us than the show itself in terms of being excited for the pay-per-view. But it wasn't a bad go-home show.
It wasn't the worst, no. Like, it wasn't offensive or boring or like I wanted to turn it off. So I don't know. The only time I wanted to change the channel was during the Jake Roberts, Arn Anderson thing.
And you are wrong for that.
Boring.
I seriously wish I had been there when it happened live, because I would have changed your opinion.
You wanted to be at the show live just for that segment? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, but overall a decent go-home show. I think this is the same feeling we end up with at every go-home show. We come into it like, man, that wasn't the best. But then after talking through it and talking through what kind of they were probably planning or thinking about or building up to, you get where they're going. It makes a lot more sense. So overall, a good Dynamite, good lead into the pay-per-view. Definitely excited for that this Saturday. Be sure to tune in on Saturday morning. We're going to air a special edition of the All Elite podcast, as we hopefully get to a more consistent 2 episodes a week once again. Maybe after the pay-per-view, maybe not. Well, we'll obviously have a lot this week, actually. Pre-show, pay-per-view, post-show, after the pay-per-view. Hopefully we get to have a fun one there. Me and AJ, our boy Phil, won't make it. Phil, man, you thought
I'm working until 6:30.
You thought the pay-per-view was on a Friday. 6:30 at night. You'll be in time.
Oh, no, 6:30 in the morning, brother. I'm working 10 to 6:30.
Man.
Be there for the first 2 hours, so you can get my thoughts from there, but I won't be able to broadcast them live.
Yeah, so overall, though, looking forward to the pay-per-view. Good episode of Dynamite. AJ, go ahead and plug your social media.
You can follow me on Twitter at BigMatchAJ, and you can follow me on Instagram at AJTheFitC.
And what about you, Phil?
Twitter is Philip with 2 L's, DIMINNO. Philip with 2 L's, DIMINNO.
Where can they find you if they want to, go to work with you on Saturday and just play the pay-per-view on their phone for you?
You can find me at the Oswego, New York Price Chopper, working overnight for way less money than I deserve.
See, an essential worker, brother, always sticking through it. Our number one coronavirus pandemic researcher, Philip Domino, he's in the thick of it every day. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the All Elite Podcast. Like I said, on Saturday, we're going to have a pre-show for the pay-per-view where we give our predictions on all of the matches. And then after the show, as always, we'll be live discussing our excitement or lack thereof with the pay-per-view, depending on how everything goes. Make sure you support AEW. Purchase all or double or nothing, not all or nothing, double or nothing this Saturday. And until next time, thanks for tuning in. See ya. Oh, wait, you can find nope, brother. You can find the podcast on Twitter at All Elite Podcast. You can check us out on Instagram at All Elite Everything. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/All Elite Podcast. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, brother. And we're on Facebook at facebook.com/All Elite Pod. You can find me on Twitter at All Elite Andy. Until next time, thank you guys for tuning in. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Same old thing, there ain't no shame, 'cause